having a tremendous impact. The perception of the United States about India right now is very positive. With the new Modi-led government, there's a tremendous amount of optimism and confidence that the market will be moving forward, that, and we're seeing it already in the increase in the caps and the FDI in certain industries. And I think that corporates in the U.S., India has always been an important market to them. I think in the final 3-4 years of the Congress Party-led government with the corruption issues, there was a lot of concern. Many people were keeping their powder dry, continuing to look at the market, but reluctant to jump in. Now with the new Modi-led government, there's a tremendous amount of confidence. One of the things, though, is they want to see action behind the rhetoric. So while there's a lot of positive sentiment, there's still a little bit of this wait and see. But the areas that we're seeing where people are expressing a tremendous amount of interest, or where we think there's a lot of opportunity, it's going to be in the life sciences area still, because India is such an important market for that. You saw the recent Famicare Mylan transaction that just happened, which was an important value-add proposition for Mylan. I think you're going to see pharmaceutical companies continue to look at India, whether for the development of product, or whether some innovators want to get into the generic business, or whether they want to get into the clinical testing and the research and development. Another very important area that we're spending a lot of time on is in the U.S.-India defense industry. I think we know that in the United States, the U.S. government has cut back on defense spending. Our U.S.-based companies involved in the defense industry have to look for other markets to sell their products and to sort of generate sales and revenue. They can't do it with Russia. They're not going to do it with China, and that leaves India. And then you have the Modi-led government sort of recognizing that the equipment and material in India defense has to be renewed. There needs to be more acquisitions. And this whole build in India is an important part of the Modi-led government's ambition for India, and the two really are going to sync up. Right. And I think you're going to see a lot of activity in that area.
Right. So pharmaceuticals and defense are two areas you right. talked about. So pharmaceuticals, we've obviously seen a lot of cross-border activity already. So two questions. So one is, what's preventing, let's say, bigger deals from happening, if at all? Or what are the kind of deals that could happen in future for which the preconditions are not there in pharmaceutical? And in defense, there's been a lot of talk, and expectations are running high everywhere. What more needs to be done to get things going?
Okay, so in the pharmaceutical industry, I think you need to see. I think the pharmaceutical, U.S.-based pharmaceutical or European-based pharmaceutical companies need to find the right product, or need to find the right opportunity, to tell the truth. I think a little bit the valuations have to get lined up. And I think, there needs to be the alignment of the product, to tell you the truth. I think companies are looking at companies in India, not that I'm directly aware of it, but I suspect that's the case. And I think there are opportunities for India-based companies to find, to develop alliances or development relationships where they can monetize the value that they've created. And so I think you're going to see that in the coming, next year or so. And do
you see buyouts happening as well? I mean,
I suspect that's the case. Yeah, I believe that's right. But you always have to have a willing seller. So on the India side, you have to have the companies prepare themselves for sale, sort of do their homework that they need to do, have the institutional structures in place in themselves, and one of the obvious areas that people need to focus on is going to be on, anti-bribery, anti-corruption, just compliance. Having the right policies and procedures, having the right corporate policies in place is going to make the sale transaction for any India company that much easier if they're dealing with a European or US-based buyer. That's just automatic.
Okay.
On the defense, I think you are going to see transactions. I suspect it's going to be more in the joint venture area, where U.S. companies have to tie up. Yeah, exactly. And in one area that I'm optimistic that we will see, I think you're going to see the rise of the India company in the defense industry. There's going to be a transition from the India companies, providing a component in the value chain to the India companies leading the contract to supply the product and looking to the U.S. to provide a component or a system. That is, I believe that will happen. I think that's laced with a lot of optimism on my part because I'm very bullish on India. But I think if we see that growth on the India side, it's going to be tremendous for India.
So one last question. So has the ghost of Vodafone gone away? Or?
I think it has. Okay. I actually do think it has. I think there's much more confidence. I think you had the finance minister coming out and saying no more retroactive application. It's always a challenge. Tax planning is just very complicated, no matter where you are. But I think there's more confidence that that particular issue will not rise again, is my sense. Yeah.
Right. And if I were to ask you a forward question, I mean, what else needs to be done in terms of, making life simpler for investors, or particularly large investors who are coming in, looking at greenfield investments?
Wow. Everyone is saying this, and so I'm just going to be part of the chorus. It's going to be, infrastructure is just going to be critical to the success of any venture in India. And even it's critical for the defense industry as well. If you think about it, you need the power, you need the roads, you need access to materials. So I think, people are waiting for the Indian government to unlock that problem. And you wish somebody would sort of clearly articulate what the issue is, and then here's how we're going to solve it. And we had the finance minister here at the GrowthNet yesterday doing a keynote speech, and he just didn't say that. He didn't come out and sort of clearly articulate what the issue is and what's going to happen. So I think that's going to be very, very important. I think, in the defense area, the cap is at 49% for foreign direct investment. And the Indian government has indicated that if technology is going to be transferred, you could go beyond that. I think people need to allow a greater ownership interest by non-Indian companies in that area. FDI is going to have to go up. We're going to have to find a way to sort of bridge that gap, particularly if companies are bringing in important, valuable technology. So.
That's a good note to end
on.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure, really. Great. Thank you.